Movies and video games, two forms of entertainment that are so very similar yet different in many ways. Generally, when these two forms of entertainment mix together, it creates a pile of garbage. Video game movies absolutely suck. Are you excited for the Borderlands movie?
I can't go if you're looking at me. Actually, scrap that. I can. I really can. Actually, it's helping.
No. And the same can be said for movie games, even though they might have a better track record. And that brings me to today's topic, which is a game that brings together the movie and gaming industry in a much different way. John Woo is a famous film director, responsible for making movies like Mission Impossible 2, Face Off, and Hard Boiled, which is a movie that is important for this video, because today's topic is Stranglehold, a video game sequel to the movie Hard Boiled. And of course, John Woo is involved in the making of Stranglehold, and famous actor Chow Yun-fat reprises his role as Tequila, which is pretty cool. And now sure, all of this is pretty awesome, but I wanted to see what influence a film director has on a video game, and just to see if overall this is a good game or not. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, if you ask me, I would say that John Woo's movies aren't exactly known for their stories. I would class most of his movies into the 80s action hero type movies. Those type of movies where the story is not really that important. And as you would guess, Stranglehold is not that much different. The story of this game is generic and pretty straightforward. You are a cool action hero called Tequila. He's a cop that doesn't play by the rules. He's very awesome and he has some one-liners. He also goes after a big bad guy which he ends up teaming up with because people he loves lives are at stake. And the only way to save them is by teaming up with the big bad guy to fight another big bad guy. The point I'm trying to make here is that the story is just kind of generic. It never exceeds the point of not being generic. Even the characters are not that well developed or fleshed out. And yet for this game I still think it works. Not every video game has to have an Arthur Morgan staring into the distance while breathing his last breath. That is not always required. Sometimes a simple generic story can work, as long as the game is more focused on gameplay. And well, as you can guess, that's exactly the case for Stranglehold. I think the most important factor about the story is that it's pretty generic, and it can be fun at times. It's nothing new or nothing extraordinary, it's just kind of generic. But I think a key factor of the story is the cinematics. The cutscenes are one of the areas where you get to see the film directing come through. If you didn't know that there was a film director involved in the making of this game, the cutscenes will pretty much tell you. You have these cool zoom-in shots, panning shots, other kinds of cool shots. You get the picture. The cinematography in this game is pretty darn awesome, as you would expect. However, unfortunately, the cool cinematography isn't really gonna do much to enhance the quality of the story. It's pretty cool to look at these cutscenes, but the story doesn't really benefit all that much from it. So yeah, the story of Stranglehold is pretty generic, but it can be pretty fun at times, and the cutscenes are pretty fun to look at because of that sweet cinematography. Now let's move on to the levels. How good are the levels in this game? Well, they pretty decent. Look, if you are looking for great level design, if you are looking for levels that are so good it will blow your girlfriend's clothes off, that's not happening. But that's mainly due to the fact that you don't have a girlfriend. Levels in this game are basic, pretty straightforward, and simplistic. There's no other way to describe it. These levels feel more like action scenes. Most of the levels are very linear. You run and gun, and that's all there is to it. Some of these levels have some things that you can collect within them, and I don't really know what the hell they do, but you can collect them, and collecting them is not really complicated. You see them and you just make your way to them. That's it.
Nice.
Other levels are purely focused on action. Like the level where you basically enter a hotel of sorts and you basically have to clear out each and every level. And well, you place your weapons and waves of enemies will just come and attack you. That's all there is to the level. That's as basic as it gets. Again, it feels more like an action scene rather than an actual well thought out level. All these levels also have these railings on which you can run for some reason. It reminds me a lot of Sunset Overdrive, except for the part that you're playing as Chow Yun-fat instead of some dude. Also, you can run up the railing of the stairs, which is some magical juju I do not understand. I think one of the greatest elements of these types of levels that just focus on the action is the fact that there is very little room for messing about. There's no running around looking for crap on the floor. You are constantly fighting and constantly surrounded by action, which is pretty cool. Now, another disappointing element of these levels is the fact that this game kind of presents you with some objectives that at first look like side objectives, and I was like, that's pretty cool, except they aren't side objectives. Yeah, one of the examples I have is where you have to destroy a bunch of chemistry labs, and I was like, wow, this game actually has some side objectives. Except it wasn't, because I couldn't progress unless I destroyed all of those chemistry labs, which is kind of stupid. It just feels like the level designers decided to throw in a bunch of busy work because they thought their levels were a little bit underwhelming or something. I don't know, but it's pretty stupid. Look, this game's levels definitely lack that key elements that make levels stand out, key elements that make them good, and well, it is very noticeable in this game. However, the reason I still say it is pretty decent is because, well, it knows what it wants to be. It knows what type of levels it is, and it plays to its strengths, which is something that I can't say about a lot of other games. This game is action-packed. Yeah, I said it like 100 times already. But how good is that action? Well, it's pretty cool. Now, this game is a Max Payne ripoff. You can jump and shoot in slow motion, just like in Max Payne. However, unlike Max Payne, this game was made with a film director. So each and every action scene looks very cinematic, and I mean it really looks very cinematic. I didn't mention this in the level section, but this game is, it has a key emphasis on destruction. Basically everything you see can be shot into bits, and I mean it can be shot into bits, like everything goes flying around when you are in a fight, and it looks very cool and very cinematic. Now mix this with some actual destructible environments that can act like booby traps, and yeah, you get the picture. It's pretty awesome. Now, these cool destructible environments and these cinematic combat sequences really help this game's combat feel way cooler than it actually is, because at its core the combat is pretty basic. You have a handful of weapons to choose from, ranging from pistols to shotguns and all the other common stuff. It's not really that deep, but it just looks so damn cool every time you are in a combat sequence. A great example would be that level I talked about, where you have to clear out each and every level of the hotel, and well, the combat sequences in that level is so damn cool because of just how much of the environment can be destroyed. It looks awesome and it feels awesome. And yes, games can get away with very basic combat systems. My last video was on Dark Souls 3, which also has a very basic combat system, but there are so many other elements that makes the combat feel way better, and I think Stranglehold could have improved on one of those elements to make its combat feel better. That being the enemy variety. This game's enemy variety is very bare-boned, it is not that great, and it could have been way better, and unfortunately it is not. The game does throw some new enemies at you here and there, but they aren't really that unique. They are basically the same as the other enemies, except they take more hits to kill. Now, I do think that if you combine better enemy variety with the very cool cinematic action sequences of this game, you would have had a very cool combat system. And well, the basic mechanics of the combat system would have not really been that big of a deal, but unfortunately it's not the case. However, that doesn't mean the devs didn't try and spice up the combat system. Now, how exactly did they try and spice up the combat system? Well, with special abilities. Now, I will admit, some of these abilities pretty useful. Some of them absolute garbage. But I do think it kind of helps the combat feel a little bit more fleshed out, even though it's not that big of a help overall. The game also has these sequences, the bullet time sequences, standoffs, I don't exactly know what to call them. But basically, you'll get these sequences where you're surrounded by enemies and you'll have to then shoot them, and the more you shoot, the better. If you miss them all, you'll suddenly just break out into a massive fight. Oh, and also you can do this in those sequences, which yeah. I really like the combat in this game. For what it is, it's pretty fun. Sure, it's not that fleshed out, just like most of the other elements of this game, but it's still pretty fun. And that to me is what's most important. If you haven't put 2 and 2 together, let me spell it out for you. As this game feels like playing through an action movie rather than playing through a game, which I don't mind. I think it's a pretty neat concept. But also there are quite a few elements of this game that is pretty underwhelming, and I definitely think it could be way better and could have made the game overall way better. Which is not to say that I think Stranglehold is a bad game, because it's not. I really enjoy this game. I think one of the key components of this game that really makes it so enjoyable is the fact that it is not very long. Which, yeah, I know what you're saying. Some people are very strict on the length of a game and how long a game should be. But to me, I think the experience is more important than length. I mean, just look at Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I played like 10 hours of that game. I couldn't complete it because it's absolute garbage. And I know there's about 40 to 50 more hours of game I can still play, but I'm not going to because it sucks. Most of the elements in Stranglehold is basic, but it's a 6-hour game and most of those things don't get boring because it's not that long. By the time most of those things start stagnating, well, the game is basically over, which is a good thing. And I think the experience of Stranglehold overall is pretty fun and pretty unique. So in the off chance that John Woo sees this video, maybe you should make another video game, because Stranglehold was pretty cool. Now that brings me to the end of this video. How do I conclude this video? Well, Stranglehold is a pretty fun time, and I think it's a game that's worth playing. It's pretty action packed, and it's basically like an action movie, except you are playing it. And that is pretty cool. I thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.